So we've got 24, and okay. So I hope this is good enough data for us to know our audience today.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. 25 is good number. Statistically, it should be 30, but we're fine with 25. We like to do that.
Okay. So I think we can safely conclude that for most of us, this is the first formal program on quality. We also have some people who are joining us from non-student community. So I'm assuming that the yellow bar that we see of which some people have implemented some concepts in the project work would include those people as well. So that's an assumption, but for all the practical purposes, I think we can go ahead with this assumption that this is the first formal program for most of us. Okay, so friends, I'll now move on to the next one, and please go back to menti.com and please answer the next question, which is there, which you see on your screen. Go to menti.com and put in the same code, or if you already have that open, just refresh your menti.com tab and please answer this question. So what is your understanding about the concept, about the responsibility of quality? Okay, so we've got 24 responses here so far, and so Uday, I hope you are able to see the responses. 25 now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So I think this is a good indication of that there is some idea that everyone has about that there is a responsibility of quality is a joint responsibility, and it should not be for a specific function. So with this, Uday, I think the stage is all set. So I'll hand it over to you, and you can begin the session with this data in the background. Thank you so much, friends. You can come back to the Google Meet tab, and we'll begin our session now.
Great. Thanks, Amit. I think, Prabhakar, we have a video that we'd like to play first, right? Prabhakar?
Yeah, I think after the introduction, I'll be doing a presentation on ISQ.
Okay, wonderful.
I hope the screen is visible.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay, thank you. So good morning, everyone. This is Pdca Shittikar. I am Executive Director of Indian Society for Quality. I am happy that we are having this very first program for the student community, and it is really a great honor for all of us to interact with all the students in relation with TQM and ISQ. I just wanted to give a brief on Indian Society for Quality. It is a not-for-profit society registered in year 1996. The real activities, got a fillip when ISQ joined Asian body called Asian Network for Quality, which is a consortium sort of thing about 18 members countries, including Japan, Singapore, Vietnam, China, Russia, and almost all are there. So ISQ has been there in the board of ANQ, and we had a ANQ Congress in India, and we also started our flagship event of annual conference in 2003. Since then, we have been doing many things to promote its objectives, and it is managed by its governing council. To Today it is headed by Dr. V. Krishnamurthy as a chairman. Many of you must be knowing. He has been a pioneer in bringing the quality movement in India, especially through public sectors. And our president, current president, is Mr. Janak Mehta, who is the first individual Deming Award winner from India, aimed at creating a platform to share and learn, and opportunity to showcase the achievements and present research papers in the field of quality management and recognize the achievers through awards and recognitions and felicitations. You can visit our website www.isqnet.org to learn more about its objectives. Started these e-learning programs, which is through the web platform, for the benefit of our members and the quality fraternity, to revise or learn more about the quality and quality management. As I told you, we are associated with the Asian Network for Quality as a member and board member, and we also support them through various various activities of Congress, etc. This year we had a board meeting in April with the ANQ through web platform, which is the first time we did because of this current situation. And ANQ, for your information, has got very eminent quality professionals all over Asia. And all of you know Dr. Kano, he is the honorary chairman of ANQ. We are also now currently associated with the Quality Innovation Award. We have become a partner from this year, which is originated from Finland and which has got about 20 partners. So this is an opportunity to showcase the quality innovation projects through the paper presentations in the international forum. I am happy that people like Akash Sadhya and many others have joined this ISQ and trying to, further this movement and trying to do this interaction between the students and the industry. Now, before I hand over to Mr. Akash Sadhya, who is the anchor for the whole program, and Akash Sadhya, all of you know, he is the convener on education institution side for NCR chapter. So he has been doing the great work in organizing this. So before that, I just want to play a small video, to just to get a sense why this quality or TQM is important in India. And the speaker is our Mr. Janak Mehta, who is the president of ISQ as well as CMD of TQM International. So please listen to him.
See, while we achieved in quality in India, celebrate what we have achieved already in the last 30 years, we also need to look at where we are. And I keep going around different parts of the world in the context of quality management as a member of International Academy for Quality and various other organizations we interact with. We've made progress, but I find others are making progress much faster than we are. And we are in an economic situation today which, as Kiran described, is concerning, and we don't even know why we are there. Suddenly it arrived on us. We were in a difficult situation in early 80s when we started the quality journey in India. I think Mr. Rajiv Gandhi started opening up a little bit. But then it was, you import something, put a label and export it. That kind of opening was there. Then in 91, 92, when it really opened up, and thanks to Venu and an example, many companies in India did exceptionally well, and we should be proud of that. I was reading the newspaper yesterday, the former governor of RBI, Mr. Raghuram, he made a statement that whatever value-added exports we are doing in India has a very high import intensity. We really have very little value-added exports from this country. We're working with one of the companies that China doesn't supply any raw materials. They banned the export of raw materials, basic metals, many years ago, because they say that's the wealth of the nation. And now they reached a stage that the intermediates also, they're preventing it being exported. They're putting a ban on intermediate exports. We might as well add full value and export. India's most of exports are still the minerals and the raw materials. So on that we had very little value. That's a huge challenge. I've been to China in the last month, in November once and then again in December. And the kind of things I see happening there are mind-boggling. Our challenge for the future is not from the European and the American. The challenge for the future is from the Chinese, who are growing so much faster than the rest of the world. None of the companies in China has won a Deming Prize. We have 32 in India. But if you look at the results in terms of what we export and what they export, the kind of products they make, we are nowhere near. So ultimately, it depends upon how we add value and community. All countries that have grown over the years have grown on the basis of exports, because the internal market can give us so much and no more. At the rate of growth, we are not there. I chaired an opening session of World Quality Forum, and it was, I think, the 13th Shanghai International Quality Symposium. People from... What struck me most was three Chinese. One was a chairman of Shanghai Metro. I don't know, most of us may not be familiar with it. Shanghai Metro is one of the largest metro network in the world. They employ 29,000 people, 705 kilometers network. 105 kilometers of that network is on maglev lines running at 350 kilometers an hour. Nobody else in the metro has a maglev line. He is the president of Shanghai Association for Quality. Tell me one business leader who will become a president of Indian Quality Association. Second one was a presentation by, I forget his name, they have a Chinese name which are difficult to pronounce, ZPMC. How many of us ever heard the name of a company called ZPMC? Probably none of us have. The largest manufacturer of port equipment in the world. Largest by wide margin. 70% of the port equipment in the world is made by ZPMC. And now ports also getting automated. Okay? And we went to his works. It took us there. It's a whole island on which he has his facility. It's 15 kilometers of coastline is his operations. 5 kilometers in one island. Then he has 2, 3 other. Some of the ports are getting automated now. They're using artificial intelligence. The first port automated, I forget the name, somewhere in North America, was done by this company. This company, actually 60% of the world's automated ports, which are not too many, is done by this company. And there are no people in that port, just cranes and the equipment, keep automated guided vehicles, and they just keep moving around, moving the material. They make engineering ships. One of the ships we saw is one which takes to the seas, and it has a submarine which go and do the undermine in the deep depths of the ocean, do mining. As his company. You heard about that 65-kilometer bridge? Part of the equipment which was used to build that bridge was made by this company. He was an engineer who started as a quality engineer. Okay? And from quality engineer to quality manager, he said, the business leader, the person who started that company in 1991, 92, not too far back, he just gave us one direction. Because it is shipbuilding and the cranes, etc., we have so many, inspectors from international inspection agencies, quality system inspectors, product inspectors. He said only one instruction. Since the inspector represents the customer, you will do everything that inspector tells you to do, period, no questions asked. This is how I said we learned about quality, doing everything what the inspectors asked us to do. And this is where they are, 1992, 27 years, top of the world and way ahead of the rest. And this gentleman who was the chairman of Shanghai Metro, he was master of Shanghai railway station. Then he moved into QA. An engineer again by profession, both engineers. Third person I met was Chen from Haili. They make compressors for the air conditioners. Second largest manufacturers of compressors for the air conditioners in the world. He was also an engineer, worked through the ranks, and became the chairman of that company. He's retired from that. All three of them are members of the International Academy for Quality, which I happened to be the president for 3 years and the chairman for 3 years. From Japan, we have Mr. Sasaki, who is the board member of Toyota, member of the International Academy for Quality. Nakao-san, he is a DC group. Yukihiro was a consultant for them in many of their companies, including USA. Deming Prize, he's also individual Deming Prize winner. He's also a member of the academy, so is Yukihiro is a member of the academy. So the business leaders taking very serious role in. If you recall, in Deming Prize in Japan went in the early 2000s, not many companies were applying for it. Mr. Shoichiro Toyoda, who's the current chairman of Toyota Motor Corporation, he is the counselor of International Academy for Quality. There's no one big business leader from India who is a member of International. They have no time. That's the problem. Quality profession. Then Mr. Sasaki, who is a board member of Toyota, he's a member of the International Academy for Quality. From Taiwan, you find, now what I sense is in the early 80s, which as Mr. Vinay Srinivasan mentioned, in 83, 84 time frame, we started through CI. As a member, I started that activity, getting people involved in quality. And we formed the National Committee on Quality in 1986, after Professor Ishikawa's visit. 23 companies came forward, including Vino's company. Only the CEOs, they're all members of this committee, National Committee on Quality. Today, we don't find them around there. We think we have arrived in quality. We looked at the Western world. In USA, people don't, the top leadership does not get involved in quality. reached that level a long time. That's one of the reasons they lost their manufacturing over a period of time. Europe doesn't produce many engineers anymore. So these are the challenges ahead of us. And we
So thank you, Akash.
Yeah. So I hope you all got a bit motivated after seeing this Janak sir's video, this amazing video. And thank you so much, Prabhakar sir. And a very warm welcome to all the learners. First, I'd like to introduce myself as the host for the day. So my name is Akash Sachdeva. I am an MTech Industrial Engineering student at IIT Delhi and a proud member of this amazing ISQ NCR team. So first, I would like to share my experience so far with ISQ. So working and brainstorming with such leaders is actually bringing about an exponential impact to my professional attitude. So huge thanks to ISQ for that, for opening the gates for students like us. And also being freshers, you don't get to have such opportunities that easily, right? So, and also I have shared information about ISQ and membership on the WhatsApp group. If anyone is willing to be a part of this team, details will be shared after the session via email and on the WhatsApp group. So we already have an introduction about our speakers for the day, but I would like to give some more details about them because it's very important. So first of all, we have Mr. Uday Mahajan, Vice President and National Head, Process Excellence and TQM in the Towers, the first company from the service industry to have received the Deming Prize. And of course, with Uday sir as the engine in the journey. And so I can definitely assure you guys, you're at the right place for learning about TQM, as it's not easy to apply TQM concepts across the entire organization and ensure its successful implementation. As we all know or have an idea that it's not a target to be achieved, it's actually a journey, which makes it even more difficult to implement. So, and he's a G certified master black belt and lean master trainer with over 28 years of rich experience in managing large teams across a variety of industries. It's really wonderful to have you, sir. And next we have Mr. Amit J. Sharma, Chief Mentor and Senior Vice President, Quality and Operations, Purple West Institute of Quality, and I am Calcutta alumni and a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt with over 23 years of experience with establishing quality management systems, process transformation, and digitalization in organizations such as Toluna, Industars, Wipro Consulting Services, and Delphi Corporation. He is trained and certified on TQM by JUICE under the guidance of none other than Dr. N. Kano. I hope everyone knows about him and about the Kano's model. Don't worry if you don't. We'll have a separate session for that as well. And it's great to have you, sir. So with this, I can assure you guys, you'll definitely take something home from this webinar, except the fact that you're already at your homes right now. So you'll definitely add something beneficial to your knowledge set. So before starting the session, I'll just want to check on few points. Please turn off your videos during the session. In Q&A sessions, you'll be allowed to turn on your mics. So before the Q&A session, please turn off your videos and mics. So I think we can begin the sessions. Over to you, Uday sir.
Hey, thanks, Akash, for that very, very humbling introduction. I think you've said more than I deserve, but thank you regardless. And thank you, everybody, for taking out the time and showing your interest in learning about TQM. I think it's deeply appreciated by all of us practitioners. And to see that we have a solid, rock solid pipeline of students willing to learn about this concept, I think is very, very encouraging and heartening for all of us. Before I start with my presentation, I do want to acknowledge the presence of one person on this call. He's typically the fly on the wall in this particular session, but he's a very, very senior TQM guru of the country, whose name was taken a while ago. I had requested him to join, on quiet mode, observer, and share his feedback in terms of what his thoughts were. Please, join me in welcoming Mr. N. Ramanathan to this session. Mr. Ramanathan, if you could please show us your face once again and give us a message before we get started. Thanks. There he is.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think it'll be very, very bad of me to ask you to say a few words, because I think we need to
please carry on.
At least to speak about TQM. But just a quick minute from you would be great. Everybody can hear from you.
Yeah. You go on. I may come on in the end, okay? If necessary.
Okay, so just to let you all know that Mr. Ramanathan has mentored many companies and helped them get the Deming Prize. Indus Towers being one of them as well. And I can tell you with a lot of confidence and experience that when he enters the meeting room and reviews teams, a lot of people start shaking in their feet because he asks tough questions and he gives great mentoring advice. So thank you, sir. We will come back to you a little bit later then. All right.
Thank you.
So thank you, sir. I will go to my presentation now, and I will just have to share my screen. Okay. Yeah, can you all see my presentation? Not yet.
No, sir. No, sir. Yet.
Okay. Is this visible now?
No, sir.
You have to select that screen,
Yeah. One sec. I'll do that. Yeah. Okay. It should be coming now.
Yeah.
Is this fine?
Yes, coming.
Yeah.
One second.
Yes, sir, it's clear.
Small change. Just 1 second. Okay. Okay, now can you see? I hope you can.
Yes, it's coming.
Okay, great.
Yes, sir.
Okay, anyway, so I guess I am visible to everybody. So a warm welcome, and I think let's just let the rubber hit the road now because we've got like about 30 minutes for me to present, and I want to make sure we give adequate time for Q&A because that's the real essence of the everybody coming together for this meeting and having to answer as many questions as we can in the time that we have. And just a disclaimer here is that, TQM is a very broad subject. And for me to do justice to it in 30 minutes is virtually impossible. We probably need at least, 25 to 30 such forums for me to actually cover everything that we would like to show you. And there'd still be a lot more left. There are full 4 or 5 year courses that are being conducted by various universities now on TQM. So I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. So what we'll do is we'll go through these few slides that I have and we'll keep the questions for the end. Feel free to keep typing your questions in the chat box as I speak. And Akash, my friend here, will keep picking them up and seeing which ones he can put up to us and sifting out the duplicates as well. So with that, I'll just take you to the first question that I think all of you must be wanting to answer. What is total quality management? Right? It's a very basic question, and we're all here to address that. But before we come to the sheer definition of TQM, I think it'll be important to understand what does the Q in the TQM really mean? Because we talk about quality, but we don't really interpret it necessarily in a calibrated way. And to appreciate that and to understand where TQM finally emerged, it'll be good to understand where quality really started from, right? So let's understand, where this concept of quality really came about. And I know possibly, if I look at the median age on this forum, it's probably going to be somewhere in the early 20s. So I know that a lot of you would not be able to relate to a lot of things that might get spoken of, but it'll be good to know the history behind some of these things. So initially, when manufacturing was taking place in the early days, there was this concept of inspection that we would make a product and we would put the product out in the bay, and then the inspector would go looking at every single article or a sample of them and deciding which ones are worthy of going to the customer and which ones don't stand any chance, and he would put those aside. Now, what would that do? Because inspection was good, the customer was getting the products that he was wanting, but at the same time there was a lot of wastage of resources. And as we heard in Mr. Janak Mehta's presentation, the national resources are everybody's, or in fact, why even national, even global resources are everybody's. And any waste on that account is not only waste of human resources for the globe, but definitely having a huge impact on the bottom line of the company. So it was working for the customer, but not working very well for the company that was manufacturing. And many times, even the customer was facing issues because there were delays on account of shortfall in terms of numbers, etc. So inspection, while okay, was not really hitting. We were not getting the bang for the buck, and therefore it was very quick to see how we could evolve from there and go to the next stage. And the next stage that emerged after that was really how do we control the quality so that we have less rejections during the inspection stage, and therefore less wastage of resources and better profitability and customer satisfaction. That's where the concept of quality control evolved from the concept of inspection. And that was really the second stage, which a lot of companies started doing. You'll still hear these terminologies in most companies, by the way. It's not that inspection has gone away completely or quality control has gone away completely, but you will see less and less of this. And any evolved company would try and minimize their inspection so that losses are minimized as well. The third stage that came about while this was going on was a little bit more upstream than quality control, and that was more quality assurance. That instead of controlling quality standing at a gate and making sure what is coming out past that gate is actually meeting the specifications the customer is needing, what were the ways of making sure that quality itself was taken care of or assured, as the word is suggesting, so that the control and the inspection become redundant. So the direction was, again, more customer focus, less wastage, and by doing more upstream activities in the manufacturing process. And I'm talking specifically about manufacturing here because manufacturing really has been the cornerstone of a lot of the quality-related initiatives across the globe. And coming from me, it might sound a little funny because I'm from the service industry. And my company has been the first from the service industry to actually get the Deming Prize from India. But the concepts, to be honest, now apply everywhere. And to me now, every industry is a service industry because it's all about the customer. And I was talking to somebody the other day, just sharing a personal experience here. And we were talking about Komatsu being, the builder of heavy equipment, material moving machines and things like that. And then somebody argued, he said, hey, Komatsu is not a heavy machinery supplier anymore. Komatsu is now the service space, and Komatsu now picks up contracts of actually selling ore. And to sell that ore and to mine that ore, they use their heavy duty equipments, right? So now it's not, if somebody places an order to Komatsu, it's also an order which is beyond just a bulldozer. It is an order to receive iron ore from a certain mine, and then Komatsu handles everything. So it's becoming more and more service oriented. You've got examples, which we can keep talking about. The Uberization of the whole world is happening, and that's how the progress is taking place. So the entire corporate world is actually moving towards service, and therefore the service industry is becoming more and more relevant. And even if you look at the GDP of India, and this is to go a little bit beyond the scope of this presentation here, you'll see the balance is now tilting from the percentage contribution of manufacturing is now not as high as it used to be in the earlier days. And the percentage of contribution to the GDP of India, for example, from the service industry is much higher than it was 20 years ago. So you'll see a shift in all patterns. And a lot of that is actually related to the quality of, quality has a direct impact on some of these things that I've just spoken of. Just a little, I cannot see the screen and the presentation at the same time. Just trying to see if I can organize that. All right, I'll keep going, and I'll request the facilitators to let me know in case there is anything I can't see in the chat box or there is a question that I'm missing, because I can't see the attendees and the presentation at the same time. All right. So moving on, quality assurance then led to the concept of quality management, which was how do we put systems and processes in place to make sure the quality assurance is taking place and QC is being minimized, inspection is being minimized. And finally, there was a need felt in the middle of somewhere the 20th century that, hey, just putting a system and process is not enough. We probably need to run our business with the concept of total quality management being the cornerstone. And today, total quality management as a concept has emerged, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well, as the way we run a business. And a lot of times I've seen people confusing total quality management and problem solving. Problem solving is a small component, but a very important component of total quality management. But it is not to be confused with the entire concept of TQM. TQM is the way to run a business. It is the way you control your people. It is the way you look after your partners. It is the way you look after your customers, and a whole lot of other things that we'll speak about. So basically, to summarize, moving from a pass-fail concept to a product focus, to a process, to a system, and finally to a customer focus. Now, if you ask anybody who decides the quality of a product, the answer has to be, it is the customer and nobody else. In fact, there is a video of Dr. Deming, which I would have liked to play, but I can't because it's a little short of time here. But in that, Dr. Deming himself talks about, customer being the one who decides the quality of your product. And he also makes a very interesting remark that if you start deciding the quality of your product, then you're not a company, then you're an artist. Only artists have the allowance of deciding how good or bad the quality of their artwork is. But if you're a company, the customer decides how good or bad your quality is. Okay. And therefore, I think with that background, I hope it's a good time to share with you the actual definition of TQM. And if you go to the JUSE website that Mr. Janak Mehta spoke of and in his speech, you will see this is actually the definition of TQM. It might sound a little theoretical to you, but the Japanese way of looking at things is they focus on the words, and they don't. They mean every word of what is written here. And if the words that I've underlined here, what you will see is when you go to the JUSE website, there is actually a write-up on what systemic activities means, what entire organization means, and what some of the others that I've highlighted here actually mean. What does the customer mean? What does quality mean? And so on and so forth. So TQM is a very powerful concept. And as they say, companies that use TQM effectively are always successful. And if a company that's using TQM is not succeeding, then it is not TQM that's failing. It's the company's implementability or implementation capability which is actually failing. And that needs to looked at, because TQM as a concept has been recorded as a success story wherever done correctly. It's something like yoga. If some of you had experience of doing yoga, maybe not at such a young age, but yoga if done correctly can yield enormous benefits. But if you don't do it properly, then it can also have detrimental impact. And therefore, you need to do it with the right guidance, with the right resources, and with the right intent and focus. Okay. So I'm not going to read out the definition. I think it's for all to see. But anyway, okay, maybe I should actually, because there might be some people on the call. So TQM is a set of systematic activities carried out by the entire organization to effectively and efficiently achieve the organization's objectives so as to provide products and services with a level of quality that satisfies customers at the appropriate time and price. A lot written here, and much of this actually is the key of this lies in actually putting it to practice. And you can read more about this on the JUSE website as well. There's a lot of detail given there. Now, just a brief history. I thought I'll make a mention of a few names here. Dr. Deming, I don't know if many of you know, but he was actually sent after the World War to Japan to help, virtually rebuild the economy after the devastation of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and before that Pearl Harbor in the US. And he was actually, his guru was Mr. Walter Schuhart, who was already practicing quality control in the US. And Mr. Joseph Juran also was, part of the same team. And they are both names to be reckoned with in the TQM world. We all understand and know their contributions. If you don't, you should read about them and see, all the positive things they've done about actually popularizing TQM as a concept. And of course, Dr. Deming, after he came to Japan, really took it up exponentially. And actually, Japan embraced the concept thanks to him, and built their manufacturing capabilities to the levels that they are today. There was no food on the table after the war, and there was a sense of urgency, and that's a separate topic. It's called the quality sweating theory. We can't cover that today. But the essence of that is that when there is an urgency in a country or in a company, whether it's due to war or whether it's simulated, people start innovating, and people have to put food on the table for their families at the end of the day. And that urgency, if it comes through a war, it's not a nice thing. But good companies normally create that urgency or simulate that urgency and make sure people keep innovating. So that really is a very, very brief, history of TQM and its emergence in Japan. And Dr. Deming is the man who's responsible for making it happen. Hence the prize named after him. He's a very revered name in Japan. And even today, the prize that's named after him, interestingly, in Japan, is named after an American gentleman called Dr. Edward Deming. All right, moving on. Let's understand a little bit more in terms of what TQM means. And like I said, this is a subject that I'll need probably 25, 30 classes to cover. So I'll try and cover basics here, because I saw from the graph that Amit had put up, thanks to all of your inputs, that a lot of you are in the starting stages of your journey. So this might be an appropriate time. I have to tell you one thing which is missing from my presentation, which is a very, very strong component of TQM, and that is statistical quality control. And we'll talk a little bit about that, but I would have liked to cover a lot more of that here, but time is not permitting me to do that. But it's important for you to know that is a very, very important part of TQM. So let's understand what is the TQM pyramid, and what are some of the things that we need to look at while practicing TQM. One, if there is a problem, it has to be solved. And my friends, what you'll understand from this is that TQM is not about being run in a company. TQM can be run in your lives on a daily basis, personally as well. So what you'll see on this slide is not only to do with how you run a company, it's to do with how you can run your life more effectively. And I've personally experienced it, and I find it tremendously beneficial. And being a student myself many, many years ago, I know that it's hard to sometimes digest these concepts, but if you assimilate them now, I can guarantee you they'll keep you in good stead in the future. So do look at it in that spirit and see if it helps you. So if there is a problem, it must be solved, whether it's in your company, whether it's in your college, in your hostel, or in your personal life, it must be solved. You can't run away from it. Now, many of you are from the IITs, and engineering is something that comes to you guys naturally. I'm an engineer myself. In fact, I'm a mechanical and a marine engineer. So, but what we normally do is a lot of study around engineering concepts, but statistics sometimes falls short. And Mr. Ramanathan is there on the call. He keeps telling me this, that, hey, the combination of engineering and statistics is very, very powerful. Engineering alone can get you benefits. Statistics alone can get you benefits. But if you combine the two and then plug it into the business, it can yield exponentially beautiful results. So that is a very, very important part of problem solving, combination for problem solving. And if you look at the Deming medal, and I'll see if I can show you the one I have in my house, because I have a personal replica of it kept with me, which I actually treasure. I'll try and share the actual medal with you in a short while. It actually says statistical quality control practices are being practiced by this company. So that's a very, very important part of the TQM journey. Third thing, very, very important, don't think that you've reached entitlement at any point of time. There is always going to be room to improve. And you can't run away from that. Everything. You've got to keep changing. If you don't open yourself to change things, you'll stagnate very quickly. And there are tons and tons of examples out there in the world. For example, Kodak, companies that refused to change, and they perished. And there are many more. So I'll not get into that detail. I'm sure thanks to WhatsApp, a lot of these information gets shared from time to time, but don't believe all of that. A lot of that is not true as well. So let's understand what comprises of the TQM pyramid. And many of you might be surprised to see the apex of this pyramid being respect for humanity. And I'll tell you why it's right on top. But the real focus of a company when practicing TQM is actually customer. The customer is God. And if the customer says your product is not good, that has to be taken as the gospel truth. If you're designing a new product and the customer says, hey, do this for me or do that for me, you have to factor that in. Many times, the customer also does not realize what he knows, or the customer has limited knowledge of what he wants. In that case, it is our job to understand what are the latent requirements of a customer, identify them along with him or her, and then come back and design those products. But the customer remains the focus of our entire attention during TQM implementation. And if you happen to go for the Deming Prize examination, the first thing they ask you or they check for is, are your goals customer oriented? If the company's goals are not customer oriented, they're inward facing. If you say my goal is to improve my profitability, it doesn't fly. Yes, profitability is very important for a company, but profitability with customer in the center is what you need to show and have. Otherwise, it's not TQM. All right. So, and of course, why respect for humanity? Because there is a very strong belief that if we don't take care of our society, if we don't take care of our partners, our employees, our customers, all together, everything that's around us, a company cannot succeed. And we have examples of several failures that have occurred in the Indian context. In the automobile industry, for example, when companies have tried to set up plants and yeah. Is that a question or is that somebody who's unmuted himself accidentally?
So it's accidentally somebody unmuted himself. You can continue.
Okay, just checking, Akash, am I going too fast or is the pace okay?
No, it's fine, sir. It's fine. It's good.
Okay. So I'd request anybody who's accidentally muted, if you're hearing me, please keep yourself on mute. And the others, please don't accidentally unmute yourself. Okay, thanks. All right, so I was talking about the customer, about the respect for humanity. And both these, of course, customer continues to be paramount, respect for humanity. I told you why it should be there. Quality first, TQM stands for quality. The middle name of TQM is quality, right? So quality first is extremely important, and quality in a way that it is standard and predictable from the customer's end is important, and that's why process orientation becomes important. Because if you don't have processes that work, there is a very good chance that you will have unpredictable outcomes, and therefore the customer will not be happy. And that's why process orientation also goes alongside quality and the respect for humanity to be having solving for the customer issues. And all this is not possible without having some of these things that I've spoken of. I've spoken about the usage of statistical tools. That actually it should be read in bold, because that's a very integral part of the TQM journey. If you really want to problem solve beyond your brainstorming abilities, you have to use statistics. Of course, fact-based management, and that is to do with your going to the Gemba. Gemba in Japanese means going to the place of work. In the manufacturing setup, it's the shop floor. And in the service industry, it would be where the actual transactions are happening. And in my industry, it happens to be where the tower is or where the transmission is taking place. Consensual approach. I think everybody has to be together in this. The team spirit addresses that ability to come together and solve problems, participate in the TQM journey, and make sure that whoever is upstream or downstream of you, because even companies, many of you may not have had the opportunity to work yet, you see there are a lot of internal customers. If I am from the IT function, everybody is my customer, because if everybody's laptops work, they are able to produce good things for the customer. So then IT becomes the supplier, the internal supplier, and everybody else becomes the internal customer. So therefore, it's very important for us to keep an eye on who the next customer in the internal world also is. And all this put together is really what TQM stands for. I hope this gives you a brief idea of what TQM really symbolizes or how it's practiced. Okay. I'm not going to pause for questions, because I'm assuming questions will come towards the end. So I'll just move on in the interest of time. I started at, so I've got about 10 minutes maximum, 10, 15 minutes. Okay. Now, Dr. Deming, we've spoken about, he came to Japan and he's done a lot of research himself around TQM and its concepts. And he actually created the Pdca cycle. I'm not going to get into detail of Pdca here, because I think Amit's going to cover a bit of that in his session, this 15 minutes that he has. But Pdca really stands for plan, do, check, and act. That's and Dr. Deming, since Mr. Schuhart was his guru. He actually went ahead and named it the Schuhart cycle as well. So a lot of times you might read it as the Deming wheel or the Schuhart cycle, but it's all the same thing. It's PDCA, plan, do, check, and act. Planning is basically planning something. Doing is doing what you plan. Checking is if you don't meet the plan when you do it, what are the gaps? Why are they there? And then act is really what actions you need to take. But Amit will speak more about that, so I'll skip this slide without getting into too much of detail. Now, TQM as a concept has several elements, okay? And this is not an exhaustive list. This is experiential because TQM, the another beauty about TQM is that it provides you flexibility. It allows you to dabble with your company's internal resources and align to what the theoretical concepts really stand for. I've had the good fortune of getting trained at the Jusei facility in Shinjuku in Tokyo. Probably one of the few people who's attended that seminar twice in his life, once in 2013 and then another time in 2016. And both times it was absolutely great with faculty like Dr. Kano there and many others established names. That is really the temple where you learn the basics of TQM. And the beautiful thing about there is that when you go there, even going to the market is like practicing TQM. And I keep joking about the fact that perhaps Deming should be given to Japan as a country, the way they work and the way they conduct themselves. It's a very, very calming and fulfilling experience. If you guys have been to Japan, you probably know what I'm talking about. If you haven't and you love TQM or quality, you must put that on your bucket list and visit Japan sometime. 6 elements of TQM. 1, policy management. This is a technical term which is used by TQM practitioners. And this is not about the car policy of a company or the HR policy of the company or the some of the other policies that we talk of. This is a technical term which is used in the TQM parlance for goal dissemination. How do we disseminate goals starting from the CEO of the company all the way till the last man standing in a manner that everybody, whatever they do throughout the year in the company, actually feeds up to what the CEO is trying to drive for the board. And that is a very, very brief explanation of policy management goal cascade. It ensures that whatever everybody does in the company actually feeds what the company is supposed to be delivering. And of course, the goals for the CEO come from the board, it comes from long-term vision of the company, so on and so forth. But the full year deployment of these goals, the monitoring of how we are performing against those goals is called policy management, a very, very important element of any TQM practicing organization. The second part of the 6 elements is called daily management. Now, daily management is nothing but a way of monitoring metrics which we should be on a regular basis, and it's called daily management, but it may not mean daily management all the time. It may mean routine management. Daily management, why? Because TQM has been prevalent hugely in the manufacturing world. And manufacturing world, it's not even daily, it's actually hourly management or even minute by minute management, because every product that is passing by is being measured sometimes, and graphs are being created. We are looking at what are the tolerances allowed. Are we within the tolerances? If not, what is my defect rate, etc. So all those things together, when done well in the form of daily management, would make sure that my policy or my policy management or my deliverables at the end of the year or end of the day or end of the month, end of the week are delivered as per my targets, right? One very important element of policy management also is to make sure we have the right targets. Do we baseline from last year's performance? Are we keeping customer expectations in mind? And then your daily management gets driven in order to drive what those deliverables are in policy management. So that's where the graph plotting comes in, and you see a picture of that on the left side. And there's a lot more to it, but this is just a flavor for the people who are coming to the session and learning about quality for the first time, or TQM for the first time. A third element, which I've already spoken of, is that TQM is only recognized being done in a company if everybody is participating. And this also came out in the second question that Amit had asked, and a lot of you gave the right answer, thankfully. I'm very happy to see that. Everybody needs to practice TQM. If the Deming Prize examiners come to your company and they see there is a function called TQM and it's practicing TQM beautifully, I'm guaranteeing you there's no way you'll get the Deming Prize. They want to see every single person, the last engineer in the field, the CEO, the partners, the customers, all being influenced by TQM. And they actually interview the customers and the partners as well. So very, very important element of TQM. Are people ideating enough? Are they doing enough problem solving? Are they participating? Are they collaborating? All that happens in the TEI element of TQM. TEI stands for Total Employee Involvement, by the way. Fourth element, QA. And again, this was a question that Amit had set up. Everybody's responsibility is quality. Quality cannot be run by one function. So QA framework must be there. My quality of hiring, my quality of partner selection, my quality of product selection, my quality of resources, my quality of products, everything has to be under the QA framework. And normally a QA framework is created wing to wing for a company. Every function has some degree of accountability towards quality, and they have their own respective quality metrics to monitor and deliver, and thereby enabling the company to be able to be a quality-oriented company and a TQM company. So QA becomes very, very important. New product development is the fifth element I just briefly spoke of some time back. It has to be customer-focused, and it must be a very, very nimble process. If the customer demands change, if the customer requirements change, we need to be able to adapt to that change very, very quickly and be able to feed the customer with what he's looking for. NPD therefore becomes very, very important. It's actually even a subset of the QA framework in many ways, but it's called out separately because of the importance it holds for the customer. And last but not the least is this component called continuous improvement, which also contains problem solving as part of it. Problem solving, and this is where the SQC or the statistical quality control elements come in and get shown. And if you don't have great stories to show from a SQC point of view, you need to question yourself in terms of how effectively you are practicing TQM. So good TQM practicing companies have rich examples, and they can keep talking about as many examples as you ask for about how they continuously improved on something. And this will be covered as part of the Pdca curve that the circle that Amit will also talk of. Now this is really a famous boat model of TQM, and I'll maybe just spend a minute on this because I am a little cognizant of time. Look at your company as a beautiful yacht, not the Diamond Princess. Okay, this is the pre-COVID days. This is a beautiful yacht that's sailing in a direction. And I've given you the definitions of the 6 elements. Let's see how they work together. Okay. Now this yacht is moving in a direction of a beautiful island. And basically what I'm saying is that this yacht is a company. The policy deployment has taken place and we are moving in this direction. And suddenly you see some rough weather in that direction. You change the direction to go to another island. Just an analogy in terms of how policy management is done. It gives the direction to a company year on year. So this is policy management. Now, while the policy management is being implemented, the ship has got to keep running. And that's really daily management that I spoke of. People need to keep doing things to keep the engine running, regardless of where the ship is going. And that is daily management. Everybody is involved. That's TEI. Everything's to be done with the highest standards of quality while the ship is running. Otherwise, you can have failures. Keep innovating for new products. See how you can find newer ways of doing things. And of course, keeping the customer in mind and how internally you can keep improving everything that is going on in that ship that's running. This, in a very, very brief summary, is the TQM framework or the TQM boat model, as we call it. And a lot can be said about this, perhaps 10 more sessions of 2 hours each on each of these topics. But this is a very brief for some of you understanding these concepts to start with. And I think in today's age, if you don't enable all this using IT, then we're fooling ourselves. So IT plays a big role in making sure TQM works effectively in any organization and automation takes place wherever possible. All right. So coming to the last couple of slides, what is some of the do's and don'ts of TQM? And so TQM is not about just quality management. It's not a process in which you give directions. It's not managing by objectives. It is about giving guidance in terms of what needs to be done. It is not a sprint. You don't do TQM for 10 days and then forget about it. It has to be done forever. It is always going to be part of your culture if you need to practice TQM. You can't say, I've been working in this company for the last 20 years, so this is what I feel we should do. You can't say, I'll take decisions based on feelings. It is about data. Now, going back into history, many times seniors have been seen as people who tell you what to do. TQM is not about telling what to do. TQM is about rolling up your sleeves, working together, collaborating, and making things happen. So it's not about telling what to do. Even in the college, when we were juniors, our seniors would tell us, this is what you need to do. I believe things have changed for the better. I think now there's collaboration. Some of you might be smiling while I say that, because it may not yet have completely evolved. But believe me, it's a lot better than what it used to be during our times. There's no individual focus. It's all teamwork. And you don't action by just seeing. You don't only see and not action. You do action on seeing, but you don't only see and not action. So what is it then, as compared to this, the don'ts that we just saw? It is about the quality of managing a business. It is about managing the entire entity with the TQM philosophy. It is collaborative. It is cooperative. It's a marathon which you keep running. It doesn't end. There's always room to improve, and that's what you see Dr. Deming saying in the center. It's not enough to do your best. You must know what to do and then do your best. So keep trying. It's about taking decisions based on facts, taking decisions based on data, taking decisions based on Gemba visits. Seniors are facilitators. They empower you. They make sure that you succeed, the company succeeds, the customer gets the best out of all of us. Teams work together, and we go down to the shop floor and take decisions and make observations. That's what TQM is about. And the left part is, of course, what TQM is not about. Now, as a concept, TQM has been practiced globally, and there are many recognitions for TQM. Deming is one such recognition which is considered as the gold standard. Of course, there is the Malcolm Baldrige, there is the European Quality Award, but and of course, they are excellent platforms to get recognized, but they have the limitation in the sense that the Malcolm Baldrige Quality Award and the EQA is given only to companies that are showing practicing quality within those within America, for example, for Malcolm Baldrige, and within Europe for the European Quality Award. But thankfully, Deming recognizes companies practicing TQM across the globe, and that's why a lot of companies take to it. And there is no wrong or right here. These are just very, very powerful on their own accounts, and we have a lot of regard for Deming because of the adoption we've had in the country, thanks to the fact that it's a global prize. And if you ever attend a Deming Prize ceremony, you'll know what I'm talking about. Everything is clockwork. Everything is by the second. And like I said, Japan is a country that runs like that. The bullet trains have start times like 08:4717 seconds. That's the start time of a bullet train. So that's the precision element that I'm talking about. And here is a list of some recent winners of Deming Prize. I will not speak about all of them, but I've marked my company in green. We got it in 2018. And of course, there are some names that have been there, like JSW, etc., and many others who've been recognized in the past. Brand Deming, last two times these companies have received it, Kyushu and Cattler. And I think we had the good fortune of listening to Mr. Janak Mehta's video. He's been the recipient of, the Deming Prize the Deming Prize winner for individuals. It's a recognition that is given. It's not a prize as such. It's a recognition for individuals for their contributions towards quality. And I think Mr. Janak Mehta and Mr. Vejas Srinivasan have been the stalwarts. Mr. Janak Mehta has been working at it from as long as one can recall. Mr. Ramanathan, who's here on the call, probably will talk a little bit more. But he's been a huge contributor and also a very dear friend of Mr. Ramanathan. And Mr. Ramanathan, his true humble ways, doesn't talk much about his own accomplishments. For one, he's received the Dronacharya Award that Prabhakar spoke of, and so many other things that he's done in the world of TQM promotion, especially in India. And this is just the last slide. This is just a picture of I thought I'll share with you the pictures of the prize ceremony. This is the Indus Tower CEO receiving the prize in the grand ceremony in Tokyo. This is some of us celebrating there in the evening there after getting the prize. This is what the medal looks like. And this is a picture that I have with Dr. Kano. Met him several times. He's an absolutely phenomenal personality and such a lovely person to meet. And he's a true practitioner of TQM. And like I promised, I'll show you the medal. This is the Deming Prize medal that I have to show you. This is my personal replica, which I have got. And with that, I will end my presentation and hand it over back to my friend Akash. Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you so much, sir. I hope everyone got actually so much of knowledge from this presentation. So now over to Amit, sir.
Thank you, Akash. Thank you, and thanks Uday for making such a lovely beginning. It's great. I never thought that a Sunday could be so energizing, actually. And so thank you so much, Uday, for a great presentation. And I'll just put my screen up and I'll share my part of the presentation. And I'll ask Deval and Akash, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so friends, very good afternoon, and I'll not take much time, but I'll just quickly introduce a concept of continuous improvement. Well, continuous improvement is a word that all of us would have heard and would have, practiced also. But in the context of TQM, what do we exactly mean by continuous improvement? I'll talk about it. And as Uday has rightly said, that it's a very important element of TQM. And so we also heard about Uday talking about the TQM pyramid, where on the top of the pyramid was the respect for humanity. And how do we actually bring about the respect for humanity is actually through that amazing combination of engineering and statistics. And I will briefly talk about it in my presentation as well as to how do we make it happen. And towards the end, I would like to give you I'll try to give you a small useful tip on something that you can actually start practicing from tomorrow onwards that will slightly change your bent of mind and make it aligned towards quality. And very importantly, I would like to reiterate the words of Mr. Janak Mehta that we heard in the beginning of the session, that there are many Deming Prize winning companies in India, but look at what China is doing. And this is where all of us, the youth, can make a difference, because quality doesn't come by learning these concepts. Quality doesn't come by reading the books. It comes by having a heart full of an intent to drive quality and to have that respect for humanity, have the respect for customers, and have the respect for processes. So without taking much time, friends, let's again get on to this quick exercise. So let's flex our muscles a little bit, and I would like to know from you how much you know about these terms called Lean Six Sigma. So please go to menti.com and put in this code, which is 956298. 956298, and answer this question. I repeat, the code is 956298. Please open menti.com and put in this code 956298 and answer the question that is displayed on the screen. After you're done with answering this question, please come back to the Google Meet. Okay, so we've got 17 responses, 18 now. And as I can see that most of you have actually undergone professional training and certification, which is very encouraging to see. And I believe most of you as students have studied it as part of your curriculum, but are yet to undergo a professional training or certification. And then we've got a large percentage that has just heard of it. Okay, so we've got 23 responses, and I'll stop here and I'll go back to my slides. So thank you so much for your response. 24 responses now. Okay, thank you so much, my friends, and I'll present my screen again. So please come back to the Google Meet, and you see two pictures here, and these are two challenges. So if you were given to take these challenges, which of the ones that you feel is relatively easier? Okay, so please go to menti.com again and type in the same code, and let's have an answer to this question. So which of these two challenges is easier? Please go to menti.com and put in the code 956298, and let us see which of these two challenges you find to be the easier one. Okay, so we've got 24 responses, and most of us feel that it's the challenge number 2, which is relatively easier. So thank you so much, friends. Thank you for your response. And I'll come back to my presentation. Please come back to Google Meet and let's continue with our presentation. So we know now, we understand from all of you that challenge number 2 is relatively easier. And we'll try to draw an analogy to this challenge number 2, into our business, into our day-to-day lives. And what I'll do is I'll just show you two pictures here, and one is number 1 corresponding to number 1, and the other one is corresponding to the challenge number 2, which most of you preferred. And so what we see here is that, you know, when somebody tells us that we should continuously keep improving, okay, that doesn't mean that we keep rolling and we just keep improving, but there have to be phases of stabilization in between. Now, some of us may argue that why should we stop? Why should we not continue to improve? Why should we stop in between? So why should we have these horizontal lines where, you know, no improvement is happening? The performance is stagnant over a period of time. The performance is again stagnant over a period of time here. So why do we have to have these time durations of stagnation? Why don't we just keep improving continuously? That could be a point of argument, but the argument in favor of this picture number 2 here is that these are not the points of stagnation. These are the time durations of stabilization of the processes. In order to sustain the improvement, it is extremely important that we stabilize the processes. Otherwise, it's extremely difficult to go this way. It would be, sooner or later, this ball will start rolling downwards. So there will not be stability, there will be confusion, there will be chaos. So we always have to, always have to take a break, step back, and stabilize our processes, and then look at the next step of improvement. Some people call this as continuous improvement, some call it as continual improvement, and some use these two terms as interchangeable ones. Doesn't matter what you call them, but certainly there have to be phases of process stabilization, and only when the process is stabilized, then that will be able to have a sustainable improvement. Now, why is it so? Let me just try to elaborate using another picture here, another illustration here. So as we go and as we follow this journey. Now, if we just draw a line at any moment of time, let's say this moment which is highlighted by this period which is highlighted by the dotted circle, let that be the period that we consider. So at any moment of time or for any duration, you see just two things. One is where you are, and the second one is where you want to be. Okay, so all your cycles of historical performance, they get archived in history. You currently stand at a point which actually becomes a starting point for you, regardless of how much progress you have made in the past. But this actually becomes a new starting point for you, and this becomes a new destination point for you. So the starting point is called baseline in the language of improvement, and this one is target. These are very simple terms. I'm sure you would have heard about these. And the line that connects these two is called as improvement. No rocket science here. It's absolutely simple. And so we'll move forward with this concept of improvement as to how do we connect the baseline and the target, and how do we improve. Now, after every cycle of improvement, we have a phase of stabilization. So we improve, we stabilize, and then we again take the next leap of improvement, and then again we stabilize with the new baseline. So whatever was the target becomes the baseline, and we establish a new target, and after we achieve that, that becomes a new baseline. And that is how the continuous improvement happens, or continual improvement, whatever you want to call it, happens in a sustainable way. So the idea is to improve and then stabilize. So improvement and stabilization, and then stabilization and improvement. This cycle has to repeat continuously, and that is the true meaning of continuous improvement. So what we are talking about here is not stagnation. It is actually a rotation, a continuous rotation of this cycle where we improve and we stabilize as we go along and as we conduct our business. Anything which is not improving will not sustain. And Mr. Janak Mehta and in fact Uday also spoke about some Indian companies which refused to improve and they perished. Some not only Indian companies, some global companies also, right? And Kodak happens to be one of them. If I look at the Indian context, it is extremely painful that we had a great automotive brand called Hindustan Motors, and they did not evolve over a period of time, and therefore they had to shut down. So that is extremely painful for us as a country. So it is very important that we have this thing in our mind, and we have this mindset of improving and stabilization, right from the beginning. You people are at an age, at the stage of your careers where it's extremely important to have certain concepts embedded in your DNA. And if you approach your career with these concepts right from the beginning, the dream of ISQ, the dream of the founders of ISQ about having quality, drive the progress of the nation can be realized. So we talk about improvement and stabilization. And when we talk of stabilization, what do we exactly do here? Okay, improvement is something that we can talk about, and we have heard about Lean Six Sigma. Most of you already know about it, and at least to an extent. So we can use all those techniques to improve. What do we do to stabilize? So in order to stabilize, we have to first document our processes. We have to make sure that the processes are adhered to, and we have to have statistical control around adherence to the processes, which means that we have to have statistical tools that indicate that the processes are actually being adhered to and the processes are stabilized. So with this, friends, I'll move forward. And when we talk about improving and stabilizing the processes, the two approaches, Uday touched upon one approach out of these briefly in his presentation, that is Plan, Do, Check, Act, PDCA. And there is another one which is SDCA, which is Standardize, Do, Check, Act, which is focused more around stabilization of the processes. So it is Standardize, Do, Check, Act and Plan, Do, Check, Act. And we will briefly study about these two cycles, and these have to keep rotating continuously. For PDCA, in Plan, Do, Check, Act, it's 4 phases, but it's not like 4 phases and we forget, we treat these phases as individual phases. It is a continuous cycle actually. So after A, again comes the next P. Okay, or after A, after Pdca, we go to SDCA, and after SDCA, we again come back to P. So this cycle goes on continuously. So, so in Pdca, in plan, what we do is basically we spend about 85% of our energy in this phase, which is planning. Unfortunately, in many of our Indian firms, be it the service industry or the manufacturing, we don't spend enough energy or enough time in planning. We straight away try to jump to the actions, and that is where we falter. And as a result, we end up wasting a lot of resources, which are not only our individual resources, but sometimes national resources and global resources as well. So for planning, we have to spend about 85% of our energy out of the entire PDCA cycle, which means that in planning, we first of all have to identify and objectively declare as to what is the problem that we are trying to solve, or what is my baseline and what is my target. And the baseline and target cannot be just a dream, cannot be just an aspiration. Those have to be statistically derived. How these are statistically derived, there are multiple techniques, and we can, for the paucity of time, I'll not be able to cover all those techniques here today, but certainly we can touch base upon these. We can touch base offline, and in case you're interested, we can talk about those offline on those techniques. So there are multiple techniques on which we can actually be useful to objectively define a target and actually see whether the baseline that we are establishing for ourselves, what we are calling as the baseline, is actually a baseline or not. And then on the basis of that, we do the brainstorming and we come up with ideas as to how do we achieve the target. Then we shortlist the ideas, and after the ideas are shortlisted, we try and experiment and implement the shortlisted ideas on a smaller scale. And after those ideas are implemented on a smaller scale, we move on to statistically or mathematically verify the results. And on the basis of the results, we pick up the solution that is most appropriate, that is most optimized, and we implement it on a large scale. And that is what we call as ACT, which is implementation of the solution on a large scale. So that's how PDCA is carried out. And when it comes to SDCA, so after we have established a baseline, after we have established a target and we've identified a solution, and through which we are able to have the next level of performance, the first step is to document the processes which are enabling this performance and train everybody, train the relevant people, have the right kind of technology, information technology enablement in place so that the processes are standardized. And it should not be that one part of the organization is following a process, but the other part is completely unaware of it. So that to make sure that everybody is following the same processes, the right kind of IT enablement has to be there, the right kind of documentation has to be there, and the training has to be there. So the three main pillars of the business, which are people, process, and technology, all these three pillars of any business have to come together. I'm sure you would know that any business actually survives and thrives on the basis of these three pillars, which are people, process, and technology, right? So all these three pillars have to come together in a coherent manner towards standardization and uniformity of following of the processes. Okay, and we follow this cycle to make sure that the processes are standardized, and wherever there is a gap, wherever we are either not able to follow a process, or wherever we are either or we are not able to get the optimal performance through the existing processes, we follow the SDS cycle to review and improve and optimize the processes which we are trying to standardize. Okay, so this is about SDCA, and after the SDCA is done, we again move on to the next cycle of PDCA, and that's how we continuously keep improving. There are other improvement methodologies also, which are there, and with DMAC being one of the most popular ones out of those, which is define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. So this is also about improving the processes. So the define here means that we define the problem. Again, everything happens statistically here. We measure the problem, and we also first of all validate whether the measurement system itself is a reliable one or not. Then we move on to analyze which means that whatever measurements we've done here, we systematically analyze those through statistical tools. We arrive at a solution, again statistically, and implement that solution. And finally, we after the implementation is done, we standardize the processes and make sure that it stays in control, or it stays the improvement stays there and it doesn't fall back. It sustains over a period of time. So that's the purpose of DMAIC. It's not necessary that you have to follow any. Some people simply follow PDCA and SDCA, and some organizations, they go to a DMAIC approach. Either ways, these are improvement methodologies. You can pick up any of those, and it doesn't matter which methodology you choose, but what matters is the intent and the mindset with which you approach these methodologies. So this is about the improvement methodologies. Now, friends, what is the intention here? When we talk about TQM, we have already spoken about the basics of TQM, and improvement and use of statistics is an important element of TQM. So I'll try to give you some small insights here, which would be helpful to you in terms of thinking in terms of quality, in terms of statistics. And this is where this is where the journey towards TQM can begin in your life. So let's assume this situation where we have a parameter of performance, and we have some value of that parameter, which is indicated by this purple dot. And over a period of time, we see that this performance improves from one place to another place. So many times people mistake this as an improvement, that the parameter has moved in the desired direction over a period of time, but actually it may or may not be improvement. And many people do this mistake, and they start jumping to this conclusion that the improvement has happened. But it may not be an improvement. Why? Because if we observe this data over a period of time, it could be like this. And if it is like this change from this point to this point was nothing but a fluctuation. It was not an improvement, it was just a fluctuation. And the process is already fluctuation to a very large extent. So if it is a part of fluctuation, it cannot be called as an improvement. Let us see this graph now, where we have a fluctuation, and we have fluctuation here. Every process will have a fluctuation. No process is 100% stable unless we are talking about the digital processes, which is either 0 or 1. But the other processes are always, they will have some variation. And if you look at this variation here, this fluctuation and this fluctuation, and then there is a line that is connecting this one and this one. So basically, this one is a variation that we would have as an inherent variation in the process, which is also called as the common cause variation. This one is also common cause variation. But we see a change here that has happened, which means that the baseline of this process has shifted from here to here. And this is what we can call as a special cause variation or an improvement. Depending on the direction of the parameter, this could be an improvement or deterioration, but this is certainly a change in the process. But any change from this point to this point is actually not a change, it's a fluctuation. It's common cause variation. And any change from this point to this point is a special cause variation, and this indicates an improvement. And because this fluctuation is not falling back to this level, so we can always say that this improvement is sustained here. With this fluctuation, this improvement is sustained. So these are some of the things that I would like you to keep in mind when it comes to the usage of statistics. Now, how do we identify whether, if we have moved from point A to point B, whether it is a common cause variation or a special cause variation? There are multiple statistical tools available on that. And we can always touch base offline. And these are my coordinates that you see on the screen. And I'll be happy to talk more about, how the improvement is carried out with you. For the paucity of time, I'm just leaving you with these small bits of knowledge, and I hope that you find these useful. You have my email address and my LinkedIn, and I know that this link is not clickable. So let me just copy this link and put it on the chat box so that you people can reach out to me if you need. And that's all from my side. And Akash, back to you, please.
So thank you so much to both our esteemed speakers. I believe all the attendees must have got a strong base about TQM, Pdca, SDCA now, and where India stands right now in terms of quality. So the presentations were indeed insightful. Once again, thank you so much. So moving on to the Q&A session, I can see the chat box. We don't have much questions to answer. So after these questions are answered, we'll have an open session where anyone can unmute themselves and ask the questions. So I'll just draft out the flow of the Q&A session. First, the person will, I'll call out the names from the chat box. I think there's only one, Ms. Poonam Wagde. Please go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question. And as soon as your question is answered, please mute yourself again. Yeah, Ms. Poonam Wagde. We have two interesting questions from her. Do we have Ms. Poonam Wagde?
Hello? Hello?
Yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us your college name, and then ask your questions, please.
Okay. Good afternoon, sir. Myself, Poonam Janardhan Wagde, and I'm pursuing MBA from Tqm, Pune. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead and ask your questions, please.
Okay. As per sir said that engineers with statistics is more powerful for problem solving. Then I'm a finance student. Okay. Then with what I am become a powerful for problem solving skill.
Okay, maybe I'll try and answer that question, Poonam. Firstly, I think thank you for asking that question. And
Okay.
when we do our undergrad or postgrad, we specialize in something or the other, and everybody cannot be everything. The bottom line is that if you're in any stream, whether it's finance, whether it's engineering, whether it's chartered accountancy, there are certain methods and techniques that you learn. Those combined with statistics is really a very powerful tool. We've got, I've seen practitioners from the finance community in several companies that I've worked for, including GE, who made excellent problem solving folks. So engineering was mentioned more to supplement the fact that most of the people in this call were from IIT, so it's more an example. But definitely there are huge skills that you develop in finance, which can definitely be used to complement statistics and still problem solve. So please don't go back with that message that it's only engineering and statistics combination. It can be a beautiful combination of finance and statistics as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. I hope your question is answered. In the chat box, we don't have any more questions. So now it's open to all the attendees. If you have any question, go ahead and...
Can I make a request? I think before we
Yes,
open
sir.
up to all the attendees, we must hear some words from Mr. Ramanathan. And
Sure,
then we'll
sure,
open up for questions and even extend the session if required, if there are more questions to be asked.
There is a construction going on. It will stop in a few minutes. I'll come back, but please proceed. Yeah, I particularly want to answer this last question. Yeah.
Okay, so if anyone wants to ask any question, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, Mr. Mayuresh. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Mayuresh from KIIT University Bhubaneswar, a student of final year electrical engineering. So just had a question, since I was about to start my career in manufacturing industry, and actually this TQM skill was really enticing to me. So how do I go about pursuing more about this skill? What are the certifications or courses that I need to have under my belt?
Amit, would you like to answer that? Hi, can you hear me? Yeah, Amit, hi, would you like to answer the question?
Sorry, Uday, I got disconnected for a while. Can someone please repeat the question?
I will repeat it for you just very quickly. So there's a gentleman here who is a final year student of electrical engineering, and he wants to pursue TQM, and he wants to know what are some of the trainings and avenues available for him to train himself to be able to pursue that.
Okay, so great. I think may I know who's asked this question? The name of the gentleman?
Sir, it's Mayuresh Bhattacharjee from KIIT University, Bhubaneswar.
So Mayuresh, first of all, you're at the right place because ISQ conducts many seminars and many programs on TQM. So I'll suggest that you please follow us, and I'll request Prabhakar to help you with with enrollments for some of these programs as well. And now, in order to pursue about TQM, so one thing is that it starts with the basic mindset of quality and the quality pyramid that Uday had introduced. That is the basic thing. So I'll suggest that you start reading certain books. There are many books which are available, and you start reading some books and you start attending these webinars. The more you interact, the more you know, the more you learn from the companies, because TQM is more practical based learning. Of course, reading books, it helps, but when you see the things happening on the ground with your own eyes, you go to the Gamba and you actually see the TQM in practice. That is where it makes a difference. So, three things. One is you please continue to follow ISQ. Second, pick up some books on the basics of TQM. And third is please make visits to the companies which are certified or which are practitioners of TQM. And then of course your knowledge will get enhanced, and that's how you can start practicing.
In fact, additionally, you can also, there are many institutes like TQMI, like MIQ, which actually offer certifications, or even there's a degree course also available. I'm sure you don't want to pursue a degree course after you've done an engineering, but you can keep that in mind as well.
And sir, I would like to add something to this question. Like, I have covered TQM in our IIT's industrial engineering course, so I had all the academic idea about that. But when I visited, I attended the ISQ's conference last year in December, and I got to know the whole different world of TQM. So I would suggest you to be in touch with ISQ if you want to pursue this field.
Yeah, certainly, and there is no substitute of practical learning when it comes to TQM.
Right. So I hope your question is answered, Mayuresh. So any other question, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. Anyone else? Anything related to quality? What your perspective? Any doubts related to quality or TQM?
I saw
Mr. Ramanathan, you're on mute.
I could ask a question.
Yes, please. Sir, you can go ahead, please. Ramanathan sir, you're audible now, but it was not very clear, so you can repeat what you said.
Selva Murugan was trying to ask a question, but there seems to be no sound after that.
Okay.
Okay, so Akash, can we please see Selva Murugan? I think there is a question in the chat box. So Akash,
okay,
please,
sure. Just. Yeah, there's I think Mr. Panduranga B has a question for Udal sir. Do we have Mr. Panduranga?
Good afternoon. Myself, Panduranga, in Purchase Quality Assurance Department of SEG. I have one specific question, two specific questions for Mr. Uday. This is regarding the whole system of TQM. The TQM concepts will include all the CFT, and it will have the overall optimization of the system, including the top management to the rest of the CFT team. I just want to understand the time factor. The most of the improvements or the optimization activities will not take place to the time factor. How does the TQM concept as an optimization concept solves the time factor? Like, to give an example, that the whole system has to work perfectly to have the end result which we are looking for. One element in the system does not operate the way it should, then leading to a delay or the time lapse of the overall objective. How does the TQM as a system considers the time factor? That's my first question. The second one is, in this the TQM as a separate entity. Now you have a supplier and also the customer concept. The customer having a TQM concepts being running into, and you have a suppliers. And how do the TQM of these two, the suppliers who don't have a TQM concepts are not running into, to get the benefit of customer having a TQM concept? So how do we merge this so that the overall benefits can be achieved? This is my second question.
Okay, so I think thank you very much, Mr. Panduranga, for asking those questions. Very, very relevant, and let me try and answer them in a simplest possible way. One, I think on the time component that you spoke of, it's what we are really talking about is a problem that we are trying to solve for in terms of being nimble or being able to have an outcome in a stipulated period of time. And so this would really fall under the problem solving umbrella of TQM, if you ask me. And of course, we'll have to get into specifics in terms of what is the problem, what is the customer expectation, what is the baseline versus the target, etc. And TQM is a very open platform, and it says, whatever tools you need to use to solve a problem. For example, this case, theory of constraints seems to be a very apt tool to be used. Or you can even use some kind of a lean value stream mapping methodology to look at some of the tags that can be reduced, etc. So depending on the type of problem, it would fall under the TQM umbrella of problem solving. And depending on the type of the problem, we can use appropriate tools that may be needed to solve for the time that you're talking about. In general, process flexibility is something that TQM always promotes, keeping in mind what the customer needs may be, and those can change from time to time, and we must cater to that change as well. So I hope that answers the first part of your question.
Yes, Mr. Uday.
Okay. Let me go to the second part of your question, which is the supplier element of TQM. Now, TQM is a huge signal from TQM practitioners and as a concept as well, that TQM is not about a company alone. It is about suppliers and it's about customers, as I briefly mentioned in my presentation as well. And TQM always says that there is an opportunity for a company to collaborate with its suppliers and customers to enrich them with the TQM practices, which will enable the entire operation to work seamlessly. Having said that, there are sometimes the reverse also is true. You could have a huge supplier like a Hitachi or a Mahindra for that matter, who are your suppliers. And you could learn from them, being a TQM practicing company, in terms of what their techniques of TQM are. So it is all about collaboration. It's about learning from each other and making sure the overall learning process is beneficial for the business, and it's a win-win situation for both. We've had several cases where we've done collaboration projects with our suppliers and with our customers on TQM practices, and also imparted trainings to each other and come out successful on both accounts. So I hope that explains the supplier part.
Yes, indeed, Mr. Uday. Thank you.
Thank you for that question.
Thank you for the question. It was really interesting to know that doubt. So next we have Mr. Selva Murugan, engineering student, EC engineering, electronical, and he wants to build a career and get a job after completion of the course. So please go ahead and unmute yourself, Mr. Selva. Do we have Mr. Selva in the group? Mr. Selva Murugan P.
He's there, but he's on mute.
He's there, but he's on mute here. So I think we can answer. Achha, he's not here, I think. And sir, for everyone, there's no language issue. आप हिंदी में भी पूछ सकते हैं, ऐसा कोई issue नहीं है, please.
Even in your regional language, it's fine. If some of us can identify, we'll try and answer there as well.
Yeah, if there are any other question, please go ahead and unmute yourself. We'll be happy to answer. I can't. Okay, so we have Mr. Selva, but he is unable to unmute himself. So I think we can answer the question just like that from the chat box. I can read out the question. So his question is, he is a first year engineering student of EC department, and he wants to know how to enroll and build a career and get a job after completion of the course. So is your question related to your branch or related to quality? Can you please type that in the chat box? Do you want to pursue a career in quality, right? So I think he's not responding. What are the skills most wanted for freshers? So I think we can answer the question in terms of quality only, like what are the skills most needed for freshers to have in terms of quality. I think we can answer that.
Problem solving skills.
Right.
Yeah, so I think very well summed up by Mr. Ramanathan. It's just the ability to be able to critically, look at a problem and be able to solve it. And I think if you're a first year student of engineering, focus on your engineering skills in the next 3-4 years, and those abilities will come to you naturally. And then practicing them on the ground, learning a little bit more about statistics, I think should be a good combination for you to have.
Yeah, and I would like to add one thing, because you are an EC engineering student. So it is important that you combine your digital transformation skills, you hone your digital transformation skills, and make a convergence between process transformation and digital transformation by using of statistics. So in the nutshell, please learn about statistics, hone your skills on process simplification, and of course something that's coherent with your engineering, which is the digital transformation of the processes. So these three skills combined together and used in the right manner should help you.
I hope your question is answered, Mr. Selva. So any other questions from anyone? Please go ahead and unmute yourself or type it in the chat box. Yeah.
Can I ask my question?
Yeah, this is my batchmate from IIT Delhi.
Yeah. So good afternoon, sir. My name is Sachin Pratap Singh. I'm a master student of industrial engineering in IIT Delhi. So my question is that we all know that discipline plays a major role for implementation of any quality tool and TQM as a whole. So do the sense of ownership in employees also play a major or important role for implementation of TQM in organization?
Who's your question to, Sachin?
Sir, anyone can answer, sir.
Okay. Amit, do you want to answer?
Yeah, let me take a stab at it. So Sachin, if I understood your question correctly, it is around it's around who takes the ownership of implementation of quality in an organization. And is that your question, if I heard it correctly?
Sir, I was asking that discipline is an important part of implementation of any quality tool. Is sense of ownership in employees also an important part of implementation of TQM in an organization?
Oh yes, of course, because when Uday spoke about TEI, which is total employee involvement. So discipline, of course, is fundamental, and discipline in a society and in an organization, in an individual at all levels, discipline is the fundamental thing to implement quality. And of course, all the employees, the commitment from all the employees is extremely important and is critical, rather, not just extremely important, but is critical towards the success of quality. So Uday, would you like to add anything to it?
No, I think you've pretty much said it. One other maybe recommendation I can make, Sachin, is that, of course, employees' involvement and all that is very, very important. But the ownership part that you spoke of actually starts from one's own self. Just being on time for a meeting and respecting other people's time. I think you must look at the apex of the pyramid that we spoke of earlier, right? And that practice can start now. We need not wait to join a company before we do that, because if we make that as part of our system now, adopting TQM becomes that much easier. And respecting people's time, respecting resources, doing the right thing when nobody's watching, those are aspects of TQM that we should start practicing now.
Yeah, and I'll just give you one example, Sachin, that, unfortunately in our country, we have seen where the culture is that, if somebody is late, then that means the person is important. So that has been, especially with the politicians and especially with the large forums, many times you would feel that, the chief guest is running late. But I'm very happy and proud to say that in all ISQ seminars that we have, all the physical and the web-based seminars that we have, all our chief guests, all our faculty members, all our speakers are right on time. And none of our sessions gets delayed because of non-availability of any of our members. So this is something that we need to inculcate in our lives as individual. And that's extremely important. And a great question, Sachin, by the way. And a great thought.
Yeah, that was actually a great question. So we have two questions from Mr. Akshay Kamble, who is a working professional. He's unable to unmute himself. So his questions are: what are the tools should a quality professional should have under the belt? And in the world of digitization, what are the tools we shall know?
So I think it goes back to the earlier question in many ways.
Right.
What do I need to have? So problem-solving techniques with a combination of statistics, and the problem-solving could well be an outcome of your engineering experience, or a finance or a CA experience, or even just work that you've been doing in the last few years. All that put together, coupled with statistics, is a beautiful combination to have. So I am assuming you meant skills and not certification. Now, to get these certifications, to get these skills, to acquire these skills, there are numerous certifications available in the market, which I'm sure you will already be privy to, and a lot of companies who also have their internal certifications. But these two, to me, are essential areas that you must have under your belt to answer your question. And the digitalization question, I'm not very clear, but as many opportunities to automate should be explored. And as you see in Lean, there are non-value added but essential activities. Those should be looked at for automation as much as possible. Any automation that you can do to make your processes lean and more efficient is always a good thing to do. So I hope that answers the question as well. Rotate the Pdca always.
Right. So I think I hope your question is answered, Mr. Akshay. So any other questions we have? You have the opportunity. Yeah.
Akash, can I add something to the second? Uday, can I add something to the answer to the second question about?
Yeah.
So Akshay, I'm assuming that by digitization you actually mean digitalization. These are two different things, and so the world of digitization is actually gone back. So this is the era of digitalization, and the tools. If you're asking about the specific tools as a student that you should learn about, well, we can start learning about Python or UiPath, or there are various other digitalization tools, artificial intelligence and machine learning tools that are available. But the idea is not about learning these tools, because the tools will get outdated very quickly, and there will be new tools which will start coming in. The idea is to have the logical thinking that would work behind any tool, and that logical thinking comes with the basic mindset of problem solving and the basic knowledge of statistics. So learn statistics and then pick up any tool of process digitalization, and it will work for you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So any other questions? You can unmute yourself and ask a question.
I think let us request Mr. Ramanathan to speak now.
Okay. Yeah.
Sir?
Yeah, hello. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So first of all, my thanks and appreciation to Uday, to Amit, to Akash, and to Prabhakar for having organized this wonderful program, and to all the students and all the quality professionals who attended this program and who are still around. Thank you very much. You did much today to progress the cause of quality. You know, I would like to first start with this engineering question, the very first question that was asked. In engineering, they use natural laws to come at specific solutions without considerations of the probability or chance. Statistics is a method in which chance and probability are brought into the picture. And a lot of processes involve this chance or this variability, which Amit Sharma explained. So when you combine engineering and statistics, you get problem-solving skills. Engineering alone will give you a forensic skill, which is being able to solve a particular problem at a particular time. With statistics, you solve types of problems. All the problems that occur within the type, you can solve because you're able to see the whole pattern. And it's not, and as Uday said, it's not only about engineering, it's about any technical function that we are learning, whether it's an MBA course or something else. So in all these, they teach you that if you do X, Y will happen. But actually, Y will happen within a range. And that causes all the problems in life. So I would suggest that anyone who wants to learn problem-solving skills and to therefore magnify the impact of the work that they're doing in their function should learn statistical methods. So that's the connection. Anyone wants to say it's clear or not?
Who asked the question? I'll just tell the name.
It doesn't matter.
Poonam had asked the question. I don't know if she's still there.
Yeah, that's what I was checking.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It's actually clear, sir. Very well answered, sir.
Okay. So, friends, all I have to say is that there is much to do for all of us. And there's much to do for ourselves, for our families, for the companies and the institutions that we work for the country, and indeed for the whole world, and not just for the whole world, but for many generations to come. So whatever contributions we need to make, there are multiple opportunities and multiple scope. And I hope that this team out here will contribute in a big way to this world. We don't have to compete. We don't have to compare ourselves with anyone. We only have to give off the best of ourselves. And for those who are in college, I would only say that, you know, education does not end with the college. You can say, in a sense, you make a new beginning with your education after you leave college. If you don't study and if you don't continue to learn, then your college education may have been a bit of a waste. And therefore, I hope that everyone here will undertake lifelong learning as a pursuit for the benefit of humanity as a whole. I wish all the young people here a wonderful life ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. We have one very interesting question for Uday, sir. From Mr. Abhay Mittal. Can you please unmute yourself? I think, yeah, Mr. Abhay Mittal. I think there's some problem. So I'll just read out the question. Sir, can you give us some insight about the aspect of quality in day-to-day life as told by Uday, sir? That's the question.
Okay, I think this question is for Mr. Ramanathan, because I've already spoken about that topic, and I'm sure hearing from Mr. Ramanathan about that would be very, very good.
I I don't think we need to worry about whether we are following quality in daily life or anything like that. It should, whatever we do should come naturally to us. And as I said, if you give off the best of yourselves, then you are pursuing quality.
I hope that gives a context to.
Yeah. I hope your question is answered, Mr. Abhay. That was very well summarized.
The bottom line should be that it has to come from within. And if it's coming from within, it'll come out naturally in everyday life as well.
That's
it
right.
should not be a forced concept that you have to adopt only at work. That's the whole point.
Right, sir. Yeah. So any other questions from anyone? Any other questions? You can unmute yourself.
I think, Akash, one suggestion is, since we are running a little over time, maybe we can entertain one last question if it is there, and then hand it over for a vote of thanks. And
yeah, sure, sir. One last question we have. If anyone wants to ask, you can unmute yourself. And one more thing, if you have any other questions, even after the session, you can ping on the WhatsApp group, or you can send an email as well. We'll get back to you. So I think we don't have any other questions. So over to you, Hemant, sir.
Yeah, before the vote of thanks, one of my requests is that, people who have the video, who can put on the video, but keep the mic mute. The idea is that we can take a screenshot of all of you, but keep the mic on mute during the session. But you can show your video.
Thanks, Akash. So I think it was a great session for all of us, and good to see so many college students join. I think on a Sunday afternoon, I'm sure you have better things to do, but you still pulled out your time, and you made sure you're able to attend this session. So great, I think, passion you have displayed for quality today. I think the key thing is, as a country, this is the right age when you should start becoming a fan of quality and take it with you throughout your entire career. I think you would have heard about this new thing we have now from the government called the Atmanirbhar mission, right? Ideas to make India self-reliant. And you would probably know the data also that with China, our deficit stands around $50 billion or so. It's a huge number. How do we really, so we have seen, a lot of people talking about how do we stop using the China-made products, which is not really that easy given the situation today. I think one of the game changers in that would be the field of quality, right? And I think the group here, especially the students who are starting their career at this point in time, I think they probably can play a big role. People like us who are almost 20 years in the industry, we're about the other side of the career. But those of you who are starting it, let's say from this session or the next session, you are well placed to leverage all these concepts, TQM and problem solving skills, statistics, and bring a change to this country. So I think that's a simple message for all of you. And let me again thanks to all who were there today from the student community side, and thanks to Uday and Amit for a great session, and Akash, great job by you for coordinating the entire thing. I think we should probably give a clap of hands to all the three. You probably have to unmute your mics and do that. Can we do that? Give a clap of hands to Uday and Amit and Akash. And thanks.
We should also have a clap of thanks for Prabhakar.
Prabhakar sir also.
Yeah, Prabhakar also, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
And thanks to Mr. Ramanathan also for his words of wisdom. I think again it's good to hear him every time we have such a conference or such a session. So with that, I would probably stop here. I don't want to come between you and your lunch. I know it's a Sunday afternoon. It's already probably late for the lunch for some of you. So I guess we are good to stop here. Akash, you can, take it from here.